Well, again, welcome to 5 Ways to Rewire Your Brain for Healing. I am super thrilled that you are here and excited to share this information with you tonight. So just before we get started, be in a space where you won't be disturbed. Turn off your cell phone. We used to think that multitasking was a really admirable trait. Now we know that it's really disruptive for the brain. Get a pad and paper if you want to take some notes. Jot down questions for the Q&A. So I won't be taking questions along the way, so please hold them till the end or just pop them in the Q&A box and I will come back to them. Partially once I'm screen sharing, I can't see the Q&A. So I will definitely be taking Q&A and we'll have time for that at the end. So thank you for understanding that. All righty, so I wanted to say also, just get comfy. I have a special gift for those of you that stay until the very end. So get comfy. We won't run anything more than, it'll be somewhere between 60 and 70 or 75 and 90 minutes, depending on questions and things like that. But I will not keep you any longer than that, I promise, because I respect your time as well. So today I'm going to teach you 5 practical strategies for rewiring your brain for healing. I've helped many patients like yourself find their way back from chronic illnesses such as Lyme disease. So I've been working with Lyme for almost 20 years, like 19 years now, to help people heal physically and not sort of more on the medical side. But I also saw the necessity to work on the mental and emotional aspects. So this includes mindset. But mindset, it's so much more than what we think of as mindset. We want to learn how to actually rewire the brain and create new neural pathways. We want to learn how to utilize both the conscious mind and the subconscious mind to facilitate healing. We can learn how to overcome limiting beliefs and resolve painful emotions. We can learn how to break ties with the past. Now, in particular with people who've been through the chronic Lyme journey, I realize there's a lot of negative experiences in the medical system and lack of understanding by friends and family and all of that. But it's so important that we learn how to put that behind us and break ties. And that's one of the things I will be talking about tonight. We want to get clear on identity and values, who we are in the world and what drives us, and then shift to a more positive outlook and empowered state of being. So I created the Transformational Healing Academy to help guide people from hopeless and helpless to empowered and moving into a future of positivity and possibility. And I'll share more about that later. If you're struggling with chronic illness, it is crucial that you know about this and have the opportunity to choose this path. So what I'm sharing with you today is just a smattering of how profoundly this kind of work can change the trajectory of your health, but also your life. And I truly believe now that this work is necessary for true healing to occur. And one of my graduates actually said, in my opinion, there is no healing from Lyme without addressing this sort of work. It's critical. And for as many years as I've been in this Lyme world, at this point, I fully agree. So some of you know me already, but before we go any further, let me just introduce myself. So my name is Dr. Nicola Ducharme. I'm a naturopathic doctor specializing in chronic complex illness, such as Lyme disease and mycotoxin illness. I have a private practice, Restore Medicine, in San Diego, California, and I work with patients worldwide. I am the author of 4 books on chronic Lyme, so The Beginner's Guide to Lyme Disease, Lyme Brain, The Lyme Diet, and Lyme Disease in Australia. And fun fact, I've written 2 children's books, The Adventures of Odie and Valentina, Odie's Day as a Unicorn, and The Adventures of Odie and Valentina, Odie Moves to California. And that is my beautiful daughter and our beautiful horse. And so that was my fun COVID project, was to write a children's book, and then I ended up writing a follow-up one. So that was lots of fun for me. I also developed an online course for patients called Lyme Ed, And I am active in educating other practitioners about Lyme disease through my Chronic Lyme Academy. So I do work with other providers, nutritionists, other naturopaths, nurse practitioners, trying to spread the word, spread awareness, get practitioners trained up, because goodness knows there's a need for it. I'm also a certified neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, certified time techniques practitioner, emotional freedom technique practitioner, certified hypnotherapist, and certified life and success coach. I'm passionate about helping people recover from chronic illness and teaching people the power of their mind in healing. So when I got certified in these modalities, that's where I really learned how the mind works and how we can utilize both the conscious and the subconscious mind. And it just blew me away. I've always been fascinated in that kind of thing, and it just blew me away. And it's personally transformed my life, because obviously I put these techniques and these tools into effect in my own life. But now I get to share it with other people and see their lives transform too, which is amazing. When I'm not working, I'll be spending time with my family, traveling. We love to go to Australia. We love New York City. And we found a ranch in Laramie, Wyoming, that now we go every summer and we ride horses. I'm a Peloton freak. I love working out on my Peloton and lifting weights and spending time at the barn with my silly boy, Odie, who's on the left, and then my daughter, Valentina, and her pony, Boo, that we actually got to go to pony finals in Kentucky last summer and try some ponies. And this is the boy we brought home for her. So my mission now is to help people with chronic illness rewire their brain for healing. I've been on a mission with Lyme disease for many years. Many of you know that. I continue on that mission from a medical standpoint, but also from this standpoint of more mental, emotional, psychological mindset, that whole piece. So you are in the right place if you are committed to healing on every level, not just physical, but mental, emotional, and spiritual. If you want to learn how to finally feel empowered and in control of your destiny. You realize that chronic illness does not define you, and you want to have the best quality of life you can along the way. You are interested in tools and strategies to help yourself navigate the mental and emotional aspects of chronic illness, and are willing to take consistent action to create change. You recognize that you struggle with negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, have medical PTSD, and or find you struggle with negative emotional spirals, and you want to learn how to break these patterns. This is not for you if you're not open to new ways of thinking and being that are more empowering. This takes a shift. We have to be open to new things. And I'm not trying to be mean or tough about this. This is just the bottom line, folks. Or if you're, for whatever reason, so comfortable in your past, no matter how painful, that change is not something you are open to. If you are not interested in letting go of your story, and we're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. Or if you're not willing or able to invest time, energy, and resources into your healing. These concepts work, but they take time and practice. So why do we do this work? Well, your brain is a powerful tool, and it can work for you or against you, up to you. So we often run subconscious programs in our mind of lack, of negativity, or hopelessness. And it's not because we mean to consciously, but because they were either instilled when we were very young or found their way in there somewhere along the way. So just like weeds creep into your garden or unwanted viruses creep onto your computer, these subconscious programs can sneak into our mind and then start running the show. And, you know, we know too, and I want to be understanding. I mean, trust me, if anyone understands the massive impact of chronic Lyme, after all these years of seeing people struggle, it's me. But in chronic illness, the bottom line is negative thoughts and emotions can be heightened because of challenging past experiences. So medical PTSD and just all the stigma around Lyme and you know, all of those things to overcome, family and friends not understanding. but also physiological imbalances, right? Sometimes the chemistry in our brains isn't helping. Sometimes we have inflammation in the brain that's triggering certain events, certain moods. So I get all of that, and that's valid, that's there, and yet we can do something different. So what if you could change your brain's wiring and your past programming? Like, what if you had the power to choose your thoughts and your feelings? And what if you could rewrite the programs in your subconscious mind to work for you and support your healing? Well, the good news is you can choose. You're in control of your thoughts and emotions. You can rewire your brain for healing. So whether you're experiencing chronic health issues yourself and find yourself in that negative spiral, or you've loved ones who are going through it and you desperately want to know how to help them, you are in the right place. Because I'm going to teach you some tools that you can use right now to start shifting your mindset and move toward healing and more positive and empowered life. So why are you here? Probably for these reasons, right? You want something different. Trust me, I know how it is to live with a negative mindset. I have been there. And I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to take away from your time tonight. But suffice it to say, I grew up with a really negative mindset. I grew up in a very loving, healthy, happy family, but I have a very, very high achieving, very bright, very academic older sister. And she and I are best friends today. We love each other to bits, and we've always loved each other to bits. But a lot of my upbringing, I had myself pinned as kind of dumb. Like, I had a story that she was the only one that could achieve anything in the family, and that I was always going to be a B student, and that I was never going to do anything with my life. And I mean, I was told that I should probably just, settle with being a travel agent because I probably wasn't capable of much else. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with being a travel agent. I was actually really keen on travel and hospitality at one point in my life. However, making choices because I don't believe that I can do anything different or better or more unique or more in tune with my gifts, that's what a negative mindset can do. So I am very, very open with the fact that, by the grace of God, I experienced great health. I really, really, really invest in myself to keep myself healthy so I can help other people. And that's really where my heart is. But I do understand that when you get into the negative spiral, it's really hard to get out of. And I had to work. I did the work. I worked on myself to break out of those things with, the help of certain tools. And I broke out of that. And I went from thinking, well, I'll just be in Sydney, where I grew up, doing the same things, being a travel agent, because there's nothing else available to me, because that's all I'm capable of. And then ended up moving to the United States, moving to Seattle to go to naturopathic medical school for 4 years. And then ended up moving to California and starting a practice. And I have distant cousins, second cousins in New York, but that's the only family I have in this country. So I say that just to say, I get it. I've had to do this work too. And I think shifting and seeing my life now versus what it was then when I was caught up in all that crap, it's night and day difference. And I would go back and do that work again in a heartbeat. So let's get into it. So like I said, we're going to talk about 5 ways to rewire your brain for healing. Now, let's be clear. We have an hour or so together. And so I am going to try and give you as practical tips as possible that you can put into practice. So take some notes on these and go back later, and you can clarify with me in the Q&A section at the end if anything is unclear to you. And this is just a smattering of what's available, but I tried to pull out some good juicy points for you. So step 1, now this can be the hardest one, and it can be a little confronting, I will tell you right now. So I thought I'd put it first and get it out of the way. Step 1 is take charge of your life. And that means being at cause rather than being in effect. And let me explain what that means. So being at cause means you're taking responsibility for everything that happens in your life, all of us, in all of our lives. Whereas being in effect is when we're in victim mode, we're blaming something or somebody else for what happens in our life. Now, the problem is that when you're in effect, you don't have the power to control what happens in your life or the perception of what happens in your life. Okay? When you're at cause and you're taking responsibility, you are responsible. You get to make those decisions, but you also have to take responsibility in every area, even when it's easier to stay in your story and to stay being in victim mode and to have somebody or something else be responsible for what's going on. Okay, so I know that's a little tough to swallow, tough pill to swallow, but let me tell you, that's the bottom line. And if you can start shifting into that sort of mindset of like, how can I be at cause in this situation? Or how can I be at cause in this relationship? And I'll give you a couple of examples. So here's a simple one. If you want to make some dietary changes to reduce inflammation in your body, okay? I kept the example pretty light. So being at cause might be, I'm going to learn the foods that nourish my body the best, or I'm going to make the choices that nourish my body the best. That's taking responsibility. If I don't know how to eat well, I'm going to learn. And I'm going to make some choices because I won't always want to eat the nourishing food. I might want to eat the junk food, but I'm going to be at cause and make the choices that nourish my body. So being in effect might be, well, I can't afford the good food, or I'm never going to get better anyway, so why bother? Or that food's too expensive. I don't know how to cook healthy food. Do you see the difference in the energy here? Being in effect, you don't really have control because you've got everything else to blame, right? Everything, it's either other people or your external circumstances. Where the bottom line is you have choices to make within yourself. Okay? I'll give you another one that comes to mind. And again, I know I touch on some sensitive topics, but I feel like, we're all in this together, right? So we may as well be real about it. I know a lot of people with chronic illness have had some negative experiences, like going through the medical system and, PTSD, medical PTSD and treatment fatigue. I hear that a lot, like, oh, I don't want to tell my story again, or I don't want to go see this new practitioner because, no one else has been able to help me. So why would that be any different? Well, that's being in effect, right? Even your current providers and practitioners, how could you be at cause in those relationships? Simple things. Make sure you're 10, 15 minutes early for your appointments so that you're on time and have a chance to take a few deep breaths and get your thoughts together and have some water and everything before your appointment time. Have your notes ready, notes about how things have been going. Have your lists of medications and supplements so that if a provider said, what are you taking? Here's my list. Right? Have questions ready. That's so much more being responsible for yourself. And you get so much more out of your visits in that if you go in with that mindset of like, okay, I'm responsible for this, but I'm also responsible for getting the answers that I want. I'm responsible for getting my questions answered. I'm responsible for making sure that this is a treatment protocol, for example, that fits with my philosophies, with my values, with where I want to go with my health, right? We need to be at cause in our healthcare as well as in life. Because when you're at cause, you are taking responsibility for everything. And when you take responsibility, you have the power to shift. And it's so much more powerful perspective to come from rather than being in effect where you're just blaming something or someone else and always living as the victim. Okay, that is not a resourceful state. So we all have our story, right? I know people with chronic illness have a story, and it's often like a long story. It's had lots of significant events. And I'm not saying for a minute that that's not hard, and I'm not saying it's not sad, and it wasn't challenging, and there were probably things that were really, really unfair that happened to you. And the longer you stay in your story, the more stuck you are in it. So being in your story is being in effect. If you want to be at cause, you have to put all of that behind you and look forward. Look forward to the future. And we're going to talk about that in just a second as well. So take it as learning lessons. Okay. It's in the past. You can't go back and change it. And talking about it all day long is not going to make it go away. It's not going to make it any better. It's just going to take up your energy, your emotions, your time, and it's going to keep you stuck in that negative path, okay? Stuck in the negative loops. And so that's one way of really being at cause, is saying, okay, that happened, it did, and it sucked. And now I've learned from it. I'm not going to let it happen again. And this is how it's going to be moving forward. That's being at cause. And it's much, much, much more powerful. So the second step is to focus on the future and not on the past. Okay, so this sort of follows on from what I was just talking about. 95% of what we do, our actions, our emotions, our behaviors, is on autopilot from things that come from our past. They're either subconscious programs that we're playing that may have been instilled when we were very young. Now, here's the interesting thing about children. Children don't really develop their conscious mind or their critical faculty until age 7 or 8. And I'll explain what that is in a second. Our conscious mind is that part of our mind where we're thinking, we're making deliberate decisions, we're having thoughts, okay? We're taking deliberate actions. Our subconscious mind is that part of our brain that runs the things that are on autopilot. So you're not consciously sitting there right now thinking, okay, heartbeat. Okay, heartbeat again. Okay, heart, let's beat again. Okay, and again. Or, you know, let's take a breath. Oh, now I better breathe out. Oh, now I better breathe in. Or you're not sitting there like consciously having your food digest if you've had something to eat. That all happens on a subconscious or unconscious level. But a lot of these like mental and emotional programs happen on that level as well. So that's what we have to be careful of. Oops. Now, kids don't actually develop a lot of a conscious mind until they're 7 or 8. Before that, they're 100% in the subconscious mind. So they don't have what we call a critical faculty. Critical faculty is like the gateway between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And so the critical faculty kind of filters information that comes in. It's the gatekeeper. So if it's sort of saying, I don't know if I want to let this information in, or I don't know if it makes sense. It's analyzing information as it comes in. Kids don't really have that. So everything that's told to them, they just accept. That's why you start finding kids at around 7 or 8 going, Santa Claus real? Like, did the tooth fairy really come? Like, they start questioning things because they've developed that part of their brain that can question things. Right? So before that, they don't have the ability to evaluate and filter information. So once we're older, information comes in and we can evaluate it based on our conscious mind of like what we consciously know and our critical faculty. But all that information is still filtered through our subconscious, through our values, through our beliefs. And most of that, it's on repeat 95% of times. So we're having the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same emotions, because we're just on autopilot with those programs that play, right? And there are ways to interrupt that. And that's what's really cool. So we have to do work both at the conscious level and the subconscious level. So we take in so much information from the outside, from our senses and everything. Our brain could not possibly, like our conscious brain couldn't possibly filter it or like come to terms with it. Our subconscious mind does. Our subconscious mind takes it all in, but it filters the information. Now it filters it through our values. It filters it through our belief system. And so the information that we end up with as sort of our reality is not really reality at all. It's like how we've filtered all of this data that's come in And so the reality that we create is based on how that data was filtered. Okay, so when we're using the same filters, we're coming up with a very similar reality day by day. Does that make sense? And then we have our habitual behaviors. So we get up in the morning, we go to the bathroom, we take ourselves to the kitchen, we put our coffee on, we go sit at the computer, we check our email, like whatever it is, we just do it unconsciously or subconsciously, day in, day out. So we play the same programs day in and day out. So the reason I'm sharing this is because if you want to change something in your life, you have to choose a different program. And you have to do some rewiring. And you have to make some different choices about what you're going to do when you get up in the morning. And you're going to have to make some different choices about all of that data that's coming in. What are the programs that it's being filtered through? And we can develop new programs. That is the beauty of it. It takes time. It takes practice. There is some work involved. But we can reframe our past memories. We can evaluate our values. We can look at our belief systems. We can look at limiting beliefs and think, we can go through processes to eliminate limiting beliefs. That's what I had to do when I was young, right? I went through some processes to help me realize that, the fact of the matter was my sister worked a lot harder than I did in school. And therefore she got better grades, right? What's the story I created? Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm never going to be anything in life. Like she's just the smart one and everyone loves her more because she's smarter. I mean, it's bullshit. Like it was such a story. So we have to learn to separate out like multiple parts of this, separate out the truth. Like what's the truth? And then what's the story I created around the truth? And kind of get real about that. But also we have to just make different choices. Okay, so we have to do some rewiring, and that's the brain is very malleable. Neuroplasticity has showed us that we can rewire our thought patterns, our neural pathways. Okay, so you have to make some different choices in your life, including what you do when you get up in the morning. Because if you do the same things every single morning, and have the same thoughts and the same behaviors and the same feelings, you're going to have the same life. Okay? If you want a different life, you have to choose some different things. So here's just some very sort of simple things, like behavior-wise, at the very basic level of behavior. You're going to grab your phone first thing and see what's happening in the news or in social media. Or do you want to make a different choice and start grabbing a journal in the morning? And journaling things you're grateful for, 3 things you're grateful for every morning. Might sound little and silly and insignificant, but I tell you, that starts some shifts. I tell you, when you start your day, instead of like what's going on Instagram or who posted what on Facebook or TikTok or whatever the drug of choice is, start grabbing a journal and spending some time figuring out, like coming with things that you're grateful for. Or do you just get up and take yourself to the coffee machine? What if you sat on the floor and did a few stretches first? How would that change your physical state, your physiological state? So do you want to wake up and think of all the things that could go wrong in the day? Or do you want to wake up and think empowering thoughts about your day? So how you start your day makes a difference. Okay. So we want to reprogram that 95%. So these examples are just behavioral examples, but there are ways of shifting the deeper levels, of reprogramming the deeper levels. So it's the little things day to day, day in, day out, in infinity. But it's also the bigger program. So how many of us have been like, swear that we're never going to get into a relationship with that certain kind of person? And then what do? We get into the relationship with that certain kind of person. Is it because of them? No, it's because of the programs that we have in our mind that have us choosing that and drawing that to us. Right? Or the classic one, we swear we're not going to be our parents. And then we grow up and we go, oh God, I'm totally my mom, totally my dad, whatever the case may be. So there are things that just so many ways this plays out and this happens. So it's important that you're deliberate about your future, Deliberate about even your future when you get up tomorrow morning. Because we think of the future as this big thing out there, right? Like so far away or whatever. Our future starts like now, and then now, and then now again. So your future can be shifted when you get up tomorrow morning and make a different choice. Or when you go to bed tonight, grab a piece of paper and write down 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 ways you showed up for yourself today or took care of yourself today. 3 ways you were at cause in the world today. It takes 3 to 5 minutes, but believe me, it will start changing things. So you have to make some different conscious choices in order to get different results in your life. That's the bottom line. So if you can, start working on clearing up some of those past programs and just to some extent bring them into your conscious awareness. So moving them from the subconscious into the conscious. Now, this may be as easy, no, simple. It's not easy, simple. I don't want you to think, well, I don't have no idea how to do that. Just catch yourself. Catch yourself if you're having some thoughts that are disempowering. Catch yourself if you find yourself kind of having the same judgments about people. Like, just start to notice, just be curious. That's all it takes, is to be curious. The bottom line is that requires being at cause, doesn't it? So when we're in effect, we don't want to notice. Why would we? Because it's not our fault, nothing to do with us. It's happening to us by other people and other things. Right? So then we've got to go, oh, I did that again, or oh, well, that went a bit messy, but I think I've got to take responsibility for that. Or I had a falling out with this person. I need to take some ownership of that, go clean that up. Right? And then if you're seeing the same patterns or the same cycle in your life, it's time to start evaluating what the underlying patterns are in that. So if you were going to be in effect, you'd be saying, oh, that thing keeps happening to me. But if you're at cause, you'll be like, somehow I'm attracting that over and over again. Let's see, let's investigate what that's about. How could I get curious and try to figure out? And look, honestly, sometimes just journaling is the best way to bring those things out. Because when you're journaling, you know, your conscious mind is busy doing the writing and whatever, but then your subconscious mind gets to share a little bit. Okay. You want to bring them out of the subconscious into the conscious, because then you have some leverage to do something about it. So step 3, your brain believes what you tell it. So speak in the positive. You hear a lot, oh, you've got to talk positive and say positive things and whatever. And I think sometimes we don't quite understand why that's so important. And it's important on a couple of different levels. Your subconscious mind is the really, really powerful part of your mind. Okay? Your subconscious mind is a sponge. It takes in all the information. Like I said, it filters all this input and all this sensory information and breaks it down into very small chunks of information that your conscious mind can understand. Your subconscious mind is the storehouse of every single memory in your life. Literally every memory is stored in your subconscious mind. Now, I know a lot of people lie, I can't remember anything. My subconscious mind does not have my memories. Absolutely not. My memories have disappeared somewhere. But that's not true. They're actually there in the subconscious. Now, your recall might be a bit fuzzy, right? So yes, there's that. But your subconscious mind is the storehouse. And it's also, like I've said, where, you know, your deeper emotions and values and beliefs are housed. Now, the subconscious mind has incredible power to direct your life, but it's very, very literal. It doesn't understand don't or not. Right? So it doesn't understand negatives. So if I were to say to you right now, don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. What do you think of? You think of a pink elephant just because the subconscious mind doesn't hear don't, it just hears pink elephant. Now then you might, and some of you are doing this right now, consciously trying to make that pink elephant green so that it's not a pink elephant. Okay, but that's your conscious mind kicking in. Your first subconscious reaction was to think of a pink elephant. like when we tell our kids, we have to be really careful with our kids for a couple of different reasons. One is, as I said before, they don't have that critical faculty. If someone tells a little kid that, they really wish they were a boy or they're not very good at math, they don't have the critical faculty to analyze that information and evaluate it and think, is that true? No, because I think I'm good at math. Like I did my sums the other day and I got them right. They just believe it because they don't have that layer of like analyzing. So we have to be careful what we say to children. I mean, this is true of adults too, but adults do have a bit more of a conscious layer. They do have some critical faculty, although it doesn't always protect from negative statements and things going in. But in our kiddos, right, we have to be super careful because they're like a sponge. They believe everything. They believe some guy with reindeer flying through the sky comes down the chimney to leave them gifts. I mean, really, they believe everything. So when we tell our kids, don't spill the milk, don't spill your drink, their subconscious mind doesn't understand the word don't. So all they're hearing is spill the milk, spill the drink. So we have to be careful to choose our words and our language to frame things in the positive of what we want. So in that little example, it might be set your drink down carefully. Make sure your drink is not on the edge of the table. Or maybe even that's not right because I'm saying not. Make sure you set your drink in the middle of the table. Right. So when we have our language, our language is super powerful. We desperately need to be careful and mindful of what we say. And that's because the subconscious will take us very, very literally. And so we really, really want us to think about speaking in the positive. The other reason this is so important, and I'll mention this now, it'll come up again in a little bit, is this whole area of neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is, if I were to describe it, it's our brain's ability to grow new neurons and create new neural pathways. And the beauty of neuroplasticity is that it was once thought that once neurons died, that's it, they were gone. We couldn't get them back. We just keep losing brain power over the years until there's nothing left. Or if one area of the brain is damaged, like in a stroke, for example, then that part of the brain may be dead, and whatever functions that part of the brain was assigned to, we won't have those functions anymore. What we know now through science is that the brain has an amazing ability to regrow neurons and to adapt to areas of need. So why this is so important is because they say, neurons that fire together wire together, right? When you have a thought, for example, and it travels down this neuron, and then you have another thought and it travels down this neuron, and then you have more thoughts in the same thing, and these neurons are firing and firing and firing. Well, we know now that they kind of bundle up. And that's where we have neural pathways. And as we repeat the thought, or as we repeat the action or the emotion, we will strengthen those neural pathways. So if you are thinking healthy, empowering thoughts, positive thoughts, empowering thoughts, and you are creating neural pathways representing those thoughts, those neural pathways will get stronger, and they'll get stronger, and they'll get stronger. Whereas if you are constantly repeating the negatives of how you're feeling sick, of how you're not going to, you're not sleeping, or whatever the story is. And look, sorry, don't mean to that sound rude. I know a lot of people are not feeling well. Okay. And if you want to create healthy brain neural pathways, then you have to choose healthy thoughts, words, emotions, behaviors. Because whatever you reinforce, whatever you think over and over again is the neural pathways you're going to get. And the more you think it, the stronger the pathway will become. Okay. Now, the good news is that if you move away from those thoughts or those series of thoughts, those neural pathways will start to disintegrate. So if you catch yourself being really super negative and just being really down in the dumps and really down on yourself, and you're like, I'm stuck with this, I can't change this, I don't have the power to change it. Well, yes, you do. And all you have to do is start thinking more empowering thoughts. And the more you think them, the more those neural pathways will strengthen. And the more those pathways strengthen, the more naturally those thoughts will come to you. So it's what we say, the language we use, our thoughts, our behaviors, all of that is really telling our brain how to be, right? It's a feedback loop. And in my program, I explain how all of these like literally influence every single cell in our body. It influences how our genes are regulated or are expressed. And that's way, way too complex of a topic for tonight. But I mean, your thoughts can influence how your genes are expressed. That's pretty powerful. They certainly influence your stress hormones. They certainly, influence so many different things in your body. So if your genes are upregulated for inflammation, or if your genes are downregulated for making healthy proteins, then you're not going to have as healthy of a body. And science tells us, we have experiments that show that our thoughts and our emotions and our state of being influence our genetic expression for the better or for the worse. So it's really, really important to frame things in the positive. Frame things in terms of what you do want, not what you don't want. I don't want to have a headache. I don't want to feel sick today. Like, I want my head to be clear. I want a great night's sleep. Like, make sure you're giving your brain and your subconscious mind that positive language, because that way you can have it work for you. And that's the same with the neuroplasticity, that you want it to be like, you want to be building up those healthy neural pathways. So the subconscious is your friend. It wants to serve you. It's one of its jobs, is to serve you. It's there for you. We've just got to give it the right input and the right directions. Okay, and we've got to utilize that neuroplasticity to our benefit, because it's working anyway. What you're thinking, those neural pathways, what fires together, wires together, that's happening. It's just either happening with negative thoughts or it's happening with positive thoughts. Okay, and that's where I say there is some work here. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. There is some work here to be done. It's a process, and it's something you have to choose, and it's something you have to practice. Okay, it's not just going to magically happen, and it's not going to start happening just because I said it did. If you don't start doing anything different, or start to put some of these processes into practice. So step 4, how are we going for time? Pretty good. Step 4, shift your identity. Be mindful of what you say after I am. So we have levels of the mind, right? On the sort of more the outer levels, we have, our behaviors, our actions, our environment, the results that we get, what happens in our life. That's all sort of more peripheral. And then we get a little bit deeper. We go into our, our beliefs. And then we get a little bit deeper than that. We go into our values. But then even deeper than that is our identity. And I'd say the only thing really deeper than our identity is our spiritual connection, right? Our purpose, what we're connected to, who we are, why we're on the planet. But what you say after I am represents your identity. And that's the deepest level of our mind. So what do you say after I am or I am not? What are your I ams? What are you saying? Do you say, I'm a chronic illness sufferer, I'm a limey, I'm a hopeless case, I am sick forever. I am not ever going to get well. Or do you use more resourceful states? Like, I am healing every day. I am moving towards perfect health for me. I am in control of my health and healing. So these are sort of related to illness and health. But what else are you saying about yourself? I am stupid. That's what I used to say about myself. I am hopeless. I am destined for negative things. I am not lovable. Right? What you say after I am is one of the most powerful things you can choose. So what I encourage my students to do is to take a piece of paper and write a list of I ams that you catch yourself with. How do you identify that's not resourceful? Just get them out. We don't want to focus on the negative, but let's, no one's kidding anyone here. Just get them out. And then on the second column, reframe them and see how you can shift them into more resourceful, more positive states. Okay. So if whatever language you use is who you are in the world, right? You create that. So here's the point I was saying about our kids. So I won't say too much more about it now, but if we tell our kids that they're not good at math or that they're not going to be successful, they'll grow up thinking that. And that will be programming that they will have to deal with later. So we want to teach kids to be resourceful too, and have, point out to them. It's not just what grown-ups tell them, it's what they're saying out loud. And point out to them too, and see if we can get them to shift their identity. Wouldn't that be a cool thing to be taught as a kid? Would be to catch yourself when you're saying things about yourself that aren't very kind, and then be taught how to reframe them into like more self-loving and empowering statements. But we need to watch it in ourselves too. And we need to remind ourselves to be more empowered and give ourselves a more empowered identity. So somebody said to me once, but I can't, if I say like, I am healed, like that just sounds so ridiculous and so far from like truth and reality. And it doesn't sound like integrous. So I get it. These identities, we can't just, we really can't just make shit up, right? I mean, like there's certain things that critical faculty and our subconscious is just going to be like, that doesn't sound right at all. So we want to move towards it. And the way to do that is by using a bridge. So if it feels like too much of a stretch to say something like, I'm in full health or I am well, then put a bridge in there. Put a like a link, like I am becoming someone who, or I am the kind of person who. I am the kind of person who has great family relationships. I am becoming my healthiest self. Right? I just find that these little bridges make it so much easier to kind of get comfortable with that. And then once you're comfortable with that, like you can move towards really being able to claim something like I am something. But if you're sitting down and, I really encourage you to sit down and write some of these out, but use that bridge if it feels like that you're not quite there. Use the bridge to help you to make those steps. And that still works. That's still a very, very positive exercise. So step 5 is to get in the alpha state every day to prime your subconscious mind, right? So I'm going to explain this. Our brains have different brain waves or frequency states. Okay, so gamma is associated with elevated consciousness. Beta, I'm going to focus on a couple now for this conversation. Beta is our awake, alert, concentrating, conscious thinking kind of state. So we have high beta, mid beta, and low beta. So if we said that mid beta is like we're focused, we're concentrating, we're alert. Maybe being at a doctor's appointment, maybe you're sitting here listening to me trying to take notes and you're kind of alert, but it's not stressful. You're thinking, but it's not like anxiety provoking. Low beta might be relaxed but alert, like you're reading a good book, you're just kind of mindlessly scrolling through social media. You're looking at a recipe. I mean, you're thinking, you're conscious, but it's more relaxed. High beta is associated with high stress levels, and it's associated with stress hormones too, like cortisol and whatnot. And it's very anxious, and our brains are on overdrive. So a great example of this would be like taking a test. Public speaking often puts a lot of people in high beta. Driving on the freeway when everyone's being a maniac and you're just trying to get home safely. That can put us into high beta. And that actually is not a healthy state for our brain. And I do find that people with chronic illness have a lower threshold for what pushes them into mid and high beta, right? So where for somebody else going to the supermarket and doing the grocery shopping may be like probably a mid beta activity. For someone with chronic illness, that may be very high beta because it's just sensory overload and light sensitivity and noise sensitivity and, just overwhelm and all the different things. So our physiological state can influence kind of where we are on that threshold too. Alpha is a state of daydreaming, imagining. It's very calm. It's very peaceful. And it is an awake state. I mean, one is still awake and somewhat aware, but very calm, very chill. That's the main state we're going to talk about tonight. Theta is a state while drifting off to sleep or waking up from sleep. So we go through, like from beta, we go and then we drift into alpha, and then we drift down to theta, and then we drift down, and then we're asleep. And then delta is the deep restorative sleep. Some people get into theta in deep meditation, but alpha is what we want to really focus on. When we want to get to the subconscious mind, that's how we get to the deeper layers for helping to rewire our brain, is to get to the subconscious mind. Now, remember I said the subconscious mind is where all those old programs and patterns and negative limiting beliefs and all the junk. Okay? So in order to start pruning that junk and clearing the junk, we need to access the subconscious mind. We need to tap into it. And one of the best ways to do that is to get into the alpha state, because that's where you have more direct access to the subconscious. So we want to quieten that conscious mind. We want to quieten the monkey mind, the beta state, right? The mid beta, the low beta, the high beta. And we want to bring our brain frequencies down so that we can get into at least the alpha state. The theta state is very desirable too, but that's usually for people who, more advanced meditators and people who really train their brain to come down. By the way, a lot of people use alcohol and drugs and things to get themselves out of high beta because it's super uncomfortable there. And so we turn to things, and sometimes we turn to healthy things like, oh, give me my GABA. Where's my GABA? Where's my, but a lot of people out there in society, that's why they're using drugs and alcohol, because they're trying to get their brain down from high beta at least into a low beta state. So to get to the alpha state and to take advantage of that and tap into the subconscious mind, we have certain modalities that help us to do that. So one is meditation. So there's a few purposes for meditation. Some of the key ones are relaxation, so getting calm, shifting into the parasympathetic nervous system state. The parasympathetic nervous system is where rest and digest happens. When we're stuck in sympathetic nervous system, or that fight or flight response, rest and digest and healing do not happen there. For healing to happen, we need to train ourselves to get into the parasympathetic nervous system state. Okay, so meditation is one way to do that. The second purpose of meditation is to tap into the subconscious mind. So being open to insights, intuitions, getting wisdom and clarity. and also helping us to let go of old limiting beliefs and programs. And I will tell you just a brief story. I was on an airplane once, and I'm a pretty consistent meditator now. I struggled with it for years. It was one of those things I knew would be good for me, but it was just torture, and I couldn't figure out a system that worked for me. But I was on an airplane, and I had like 5 or 6 hours. I was flying East Coast to West Coast. And I was like, well, I'm sitting here by myself, I'll just do some meditation. I'll just try. So I just closed my eyes, quieted myself down for about 20 minutes, and the airplane was like whirring in the background. And it was pretty relaxing. I feel like I got into I was in a meditative state. And when I ended that meditation, I literally took out a notepad and outlined 3 of my books, like just blah, 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 outline points, all of it. And that was an experience that I look back onto this day and just go, oh, wow. And I was a sucky meditator at that time, right? It was not consistent. I was just bored on a plane and didn't know what else to do. And that's the clarity that you can get. I will tell you, okay, another brief story, but last year I was doing, it was actually a guided hypnosis. And it was like a series where it was every day for a week. And I was on like day 3. And when I ended the audio, it was clear as day, the message, go get trained in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is where a lot of this work comes from. It was so clear. I can't even tell you. And so I literally went and Googled NLP training. And that's where all of this came from. Like that, it was that sudden out of a guided hypnosis. I knew about NLP. I was always interested in it, but never pursued it. And it was so compelling that I was like, of course I'll get trained in NLP, of course, because I feel like I'm being called to something bigger here. So if you can get into that state and let your subconscious mind bubble up and talk to you, you can get really, really powerful insights. And then the third thing I would say would be to connect with your higher power, the universal wisdom, source, God, divine, whatever you call it, whatever that is for you. That spiritual connection can be really important to tap into, like feeling loved, feeling guided, feeling safe. I hear a lot of people with chronic illness tell me that their connection with their higher power, whatever that means to them, their connection with God is the core thing that gets them through, and they feel like there's a purpose, somehow there's a purpose in what they're going through. And I actually have one of my students I was talking to the other day. I actually have people through this kind of work get to the point where like they're actually grateful for their journey with Lyme. And that may be hard to believe, like when you're in the throes and going through the worst of it, but I have students now of this work who are like literally at a point of gratitude for their journey because they've come through it a different person, right? Because they've done so much work on themselves. They've come out of it, a much, what they would call a much improved version of themselves. So anyway, back to meditation. So there's many different types of meditation. Silent meditation, I feel like, is potentially the most challenging. Sitting there waiting for the gap between your thoughts. That was always torture for me. So it wasn't something that worked for me, but it does work for other people. I like guided meditations because I feel like, your brain has something to follow along, but it's still guiding you into a calm state and helping you get that beta down into the alpha. There's breathing or breathwork meditations. There's mantra-based meditation. Transcendental meditation's been around for years. It's hugely popular throughout the world, and that's all mantra-based. Again, it just gives your monkey mind something to focus on. But I really love the guided meditations, and I found, for me anyway, personally, they've been the most powerful. The other way to get into the alpha state is hypnosis. And that's very similar to meditation in terms of getting into a calm, relaxed state called the hypnotic or trance state. The main difference is hypnosis involves actually making suggestions to the subconscious mind. So that can be done with a hypnotherapist or audio tracks you listen to. I actually have some hypnosis, and that's my little gift. For those of you that stayed to the very end, I've got a hypnosis for healing track that I have for you as a special gift. There's lots of audios you can access, but hypnotherapy is wonderful too and has so many different benefits, can be used for so many different things. The bottom line is that healing happens in the calm alpha state. So when you quieten the conscious mind, you allow your parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, and then you're open to intuitive messages and guidances, and you get those really deep feelings of peace and tranquility. Now, I said that we go through theta and alpha when we go to sleep, and then again when we wake up on our way to our little beta brain. And so that's a great time to do these things, to tap into the alpha state, is first thing in the morning or last thing at night, because your brain is naturally moving through those more calm pathways. So putting these principles into practice, these principles and tools work. But as I said, you have to want to do it, you have to choose to do it, and you have to commit to it. It takes discipline and practice. It's just like changing your diet or adopting a new supplement regimen or a new workout routine. It can be challenging at first. It's unfamiliar. It may even be uncomfortable. But then the results start to appear, and that motivates you to keep going, and it starts getting easier because you're creating those neural pathways, and it starts getting more automatic. And suddenly you have a new way of being in the world, and those habits are ingrained. And the practice is a part of your daily regimen. And you're reaping the benefits. Your brain is rewiring itself, and you're on the way to a happier, healthier you. I have seen people do this. You're noticing yourself changing, seeing the world differently, feeling more hopeful. Other people notice that you're happier and just seem brighter and calmer. And then your body responds. You spend more time in parasympathetic, less in the fight or flight. And you remember who you are deep down before your illness or without your illness. So you have a choice, but it is a choice. It's a deliberate choice to change. It's not going to happen magically on its own. I wish I could wave a magic wand and have it be there, but that's not how it works. So I am here to help you to figure it out. I'll teach you how, I'll show you the tools, and to support you along the way. Maybe you've been trying to do this on your own, but feel isolated and are craving an empowered, supportive community where you can learn and grow with like-minded people. So that's why I created the Transformational Healing Academy, to fill this gap in what I was seeing in the world of chronic Lyme. I feel like on the medical side, there's more and more different practitioners and different therapies coming out. But listen, if the mind isn't wired correctly, the body won't be able to heal. It's as simple as that. So let me tell you a little bit about the Transformational Healing Academy. It's a 7-step system to more joy and freedom. And our mission here is to help people take control of their chronic illness by harnessing the power of their conscious and subconscious mind to accelerate healing and experience a life of empowerment, freedom, and wholeness. Okay. So whatever brought you here tonight, maybe you don't really understand how your mind works, like all these neural pathways, what, and the frequencies, what? So you don't know where to start. Maybe you know that you carry around many painful emotions from the past, and you know that they hold you back, but you don't know how to release them. Or sometimes it feels really scary to release them. Maybe you get caught in negative thought spirals, but can't control them. You feel powerless in your illness. I see that all the time with chronic Lyme. Discouraged by hearing the stories of other people, or hurt and angry at how you've been treated in the past. So you are in the right place. If this resonates with you and you see the significance of what I just taught you, the Transformational Healing Academy made me the right thing to take you to the next levels and to really ingrain this into your world. So the Transformational Healing Academy is an 8-week small group program. The groups are deliberately kept small so that there's plenty of time for individualized attention while still providing mutual support to one another, which is huge, and generating a sense of community. But this is a community that's looking to get more empowered. It's not a community that's looking to just get together and talk about how shitty the whole thing is. You can get that in Facebook groups all day long. Okay, this is a community that's moving on the forward trajectory. And while we're very realistic about being in the muck or in the mud, we're always deliberately looking forward. There'll be 8 weekly live masterclasses followed by coaching and implementation sessions so that you can learn how to take control of your thoughts and emotions and program your subconscious mind for healing. The 8 weekly live masterclasses are taught, all of them by myself personally, and we do discussion, Q&A, coaching if anyone needs, like individualized support. So in doing so, you'll become crystal clear about the power of your mind and inspired to shift your entire mindset towards health and wholeness. You'll have me there to coach you out of your blocks and anything that gets in the way, so you have the support you need to experience transformation in your health, but also in your life as a whole. You will also have lifetime access to my Healing Vault, which is a portal of the masterclass recordings, hypnosis and meditation audios, a 28-day affirmation bundle, a 7-day EFT calendar, a limiting belief buster workbook, and my manifestation method workbook. These are all things that we go through and do together in the 8-week program, and you have lifetime access to that. The masterclass recordings are the actual recordings from the small group, and they are never shared outside of that small group. Right? So every pod has its little portal, and they're the only people that can get into that portal and those specific recordings. So in having all of this, you'll be equipped with all the tools and techniques you need to keep you moving forward and gaining all the benefits of this transformational practice in your health and your life. It's not just for 8 weeks. The 8 weeks is the learning, okay? Then you will be equipped to continue that forward in your life. You'll also have an individual check-in call with me midway through the program. So that's a one-on-one call with me directly. So if there's anything you're getting stuck on, anything you need more support with that you want to handle outside of the group, any questions, you'll have that sort of midway through. You'll also be assigned an accountability buddy in the program so that you feel connected and have someone to share insights with, encourage each other, and support each other on the healing journey. We're only as strong as our weakest links. We really need, I know Lyme can be so isolating. I really, like, one of my great desires in this is to create a community and create empowered support. And you'll also receive a fun little welcome gift delivered to your door before the program starts. So just to recap, you'll have access to the 8 weekly masterclasses and coaching implementation group sessions with me personally, and they are live. Well, live done via Zoom. You'll have lifetime access to the Healing Vault, including the masterclass recordings, meditation and hypnosis audios, guides, and workbooks. And guys, I got to tell you, creating meditation and hypnosis audios is like one of my new favorite hobbies. Like, I love it. And so I'm looking to grow that vault of things to offer you. There's 5 or 6 things in there now, and I have lots of ideas of what to go next. You'll have an accountability buddy. You'll have your mid-program one-on-one check-in call with me and your physical welcome gift. But this is what I'm one thing I'm really, really excited about. I get excited about a lot of things. I'm going to bonus you my Lyme Ed for Patients program. Now, this is an educational program that I created. I joke that it's everything I know about treating chronic Lyme disease in a digital course format. Okay, so it's about 25 hours of teaching, everything from, there's a module on, antibiotic treatment for Lyme. There's a module on hormone imbalance in Lyme. There's a whole module on the importance of detoxification and how to do it. There's a module on digestive issues in Lyme. It's really, really comprehensive. And I'm going to bonus that in and include that with this program, because it just sort of helps put the two things together. As you're learning how to work with your mindset and really kind of work on that the more emotional, psychological parts, this then gives you lots of information about the actual strategies of treating Lyme. So, we're not pretending that Lyme's going to cease to exist in your world if you just start thinking positive thoughts. Your experience of Lyme is going to shift for the better, You're going to be more empowered to walk through it. But Lyme Ed will give you tons and tons and tons of information about Lyme treatments. So simple pricing of the program, it's $19.97 for the 8-week program and everything that's included and all the bonuses and the Lyme Ed. And the Lyme Ed's worth like $497 just by itself. Or it can be done in 3 monthly payments of $697. So this program's not for everyone. It's certainly, I mean, it is an investment. It's money, it's time, it's energy. But what I'm looking for is really highly motivated individuals who are committed to their own growth throughout their journey in chronic illness and who are willing to invest in themselves for the transformation that is available to them as a result of saying yes to this program. And I promise you, this is more than health changing. It's a life changing program. So the promises I make, you'll be educated on how the mind works. You'll be empowered in how to break the negative thought spiral. You'll feel positive and more hopeful, more reconnected with others and life, feeling in control and empowered, and having tools and strategies to help yourself, as well as being surrounded by like-minded people, people who get what you've been through and what you're going through, but who are really committed to getting out of the other side. So I want to just read this quickly. This is from one of my previous participants. This Transformational Healing Academy is such a gift. Throughout the program, I've learned so many tools that have helped me to understand and strengthen the mind-body connection, which I now understand is intimately connected with our physiological well-being and our ability to reach an optimal state of health. Dr. Nicola is a wealth of knowledge and compassionately holds space for each participant to explore and challenge their beliefs in order to transcend into greater levels of healing. The resources and support provided have helped me establish new daily habits and practices, which I continue to put into practice well beyond the completion of the program. I have noticed tangible positive shifts not only in my health, but also in every other facet of my life. I would argue that everyone could benefit from this information and that this work is especially vital to anyone dealing with chronic illness. It has been truly life-changing. Another student of mine said, I wish I'd had this program when I first started treatment. I would have said yes right away. So it is such a crucial piece. So here's your bonus for today only. If you enroll in the Transformational Healing Academy in the next 24 hours, I'm going to extend an early bird discount to you of $500, bringing the price of the 8-week program, including the Lyme Ed for patients, to $14.97. So once I stop screen sharing, I'm going to pop a couple of links in the chat. So you've got the link there to jump over to that page. And the discount does apply to the payment plan option too. So the same code applies to both. So if you know that the Transformational Healing Academy is a next step for you in your healing journey, please click the link. I'll put it in the chat or in the Q&A, excuse me, and get yourself signed up. And if it's not for you at this time, I hope you learned new valuable information today that was insightful and helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me. So what I'm going to do now is stop my screen share, and I'm going to get those links to you. And then I will open for Q&A. All right, so, oh, well, if the chat's disabled, that's not much help, is it? I wonder if I can. Let me see if this works. Otherwise, I will email it out. All right. So yes, questions. Can you guys see every question? So what I'm going to do is, all right, somebody asked, would there be options for time zones? Yes, absolutely. Let me just get this here and then I will definitely answer that for you. Move that over. Okay, so what I've actually done is answered that question. I hope you can see it with the link to the Healing Academy. So hopefully you can see that. So Hoover, yes, saying here, yes, thank you. Hi, Aussies. Hoover, I'm actually probably working on a CEU class for practitioners, yes. So this will not be sent out as a recording. I said don't, LOL, yes, thank you. This will not be sent out as a recording. However, I have had multiple requests from people like in different time zones that couldn't make this evening one that, so I may well do a repeat next week in probably more of an early morning Pacific time zone so that people in Europe can tune in. So stay tuned for that. In terms of the 8-week program, absolutely, I will make it time zone friendly. So I have a couple of different sort of groups on the like in the queue waiting right now. So I will likely do an early morning Pacific time zone. So that would maybe be better for East Coast. And I've got someone in Germany already signed up for that. And then I could also do an evening one. So I will make the time zones work for Australia and for different time zones within the US and then for Europe as well. So that should cover pretty much everybody in between. There's a question about, oh, Hoover's saying you can only see your questions. Okay. I don't know how to enable the chat. That might have been in a setting and I don't want to go and screw it up and like lose the whole thing. Chat, let me see if I have. I've never seen chat not enabled before on Zoom. That's kind of new to me, so I don't know where I goofed up on that. I will send out by email I'll just send out an email with the links and the code in it, so you've got it all there ready. So somebody's asking about stellate ganglion blocks. That was a bigger thing in Australia. I don't hear much about that here. So it's not something that we really have as part of our common Lyme treatment here in the US. You had one done recently in heart and stress response is so much better. Yes, and it's a reboot for the autonomic nervous system. So the question is about stellate ganglion blocks. And it's kind of beyond like what we're talking about here tonight. That's more of a medical question, but not something that I have that I've seen practitioners in the States actually do. I've seen that more in Australia. Jason's saying, have I seen anyone that was completely healthy before and then got COVID and suddenly got very sick and tested positive for Lyme and many co-infections? Yes, yes, and yes. And again, that's more of a medical question, so not really in our scope for tonight, but I have had lots of people who had COVID and either they had pre-existing Lyme and their Lyme flared, or they were okay before and then the COVID seemed to activate the Lyme and EBV and all of that. Yes, I've seen that quite a bit. A question about had a consult with Dr. Steph. Dr. Steph does not do hypnosis, I'm afraid, just me, but yeah, thank you and you're welcome. Elena, good question. Does neurofeedback therapy help rewiring your brain? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's exactly what neurofeedback does. And I love neurofeedback as a modality. So yeah, I'm a big fan of neurofeedback. It helps more with the wiring, like, right? And you still got the chemical stuff and you still got like the subconscious programming and all of that, but neurofeedback can help with the wiring. The question is this training predominantly for Lyme's? I would say no. This training it does focus on health. The training does not focus on Lyme disease per se. It does focus on health, chronic illness. So my students really are in the world of chronic illness, whether they're there for themselves or a family member to kind of try and absorb some of this information to be able to help somebody else shift, or at least be like, or help them in whatever way they can. And Yeah, and so it's definitely health and chronic illness oriented, but not specifically Lyme oriented. And yeah, someone make a comment. There's a comment default in webinar versus Zoom call to have chat disabled. Yes, well, I guess that's my lesson for the evening, isn't it? But I'm going to give you, so if you've got pen and paper, write down this link. It's www.Dr. Nicola Ducharme. That's DR, so abbreviation for doctor, DR, Nicola, Ducharme, /transformational-healing-academy. And the code, the early bird discount code is early bird, all one word. So now you have that. All right. So let me see. I think we've covered most of the questions. All right. So I'm also going to send out to you, I was going to pop that in. No, that's not it. I was going to pop that link in the chat, but that's okay. I can send it out by email. The link to the Hypnosis for Healing, because that's my gift to you. And I appreciate you staying on and being with me the entire time. We are on time. We have 6 minutes to spare, so that's great. And I will get that link out to you. But the Hypnosis for Healing, I hope you enjoy it. It's very peaceful and very empowering. And I've had a couple of people say that they actually listen to it at night, every night before they go to bed. So yeah, I hope that's going to be helpful for you. All right, folks. Well, thank you again for joining me. It was wonderful to have you here. Look out for an email in your inbox very soon. I'll get that out this evening, just to follow up and provide the link, and then I'll also provide the link for you to the Hypnosis for Healing. All right, and then look out if you're interested in kind of reviewing this, if you want to hear it again, or if you have someone, like somebody that you know in a different time zone, look out on my emails that I will create another time for next week, because I have had questions from people that couldn't make this time. It was the middle of the night for them. All right, so take good care of yourselves. I love you all, and we will see you very soon. Bye-bye.